I love you because you're no bullshit, right? So, I mean, seriously, like, we are throwing these words around like they're old hat. And I know you're in the trenches and it's still a schlep every day. So just give me a State of the Union. Where is the business right now from the buy side?
It's funny that you say that. I was like having trouble controlling myself through the last 5 people who were up here because it's just like, I really earned that nickname, Scheppach. I'm like, shit, people. There is so much fog in the marketplace. You know, I consider myself an expert at this. I probably have the most.
By the way, you are.
Yeah.
And that's warranted.
So, you know, I don't say, you know, lightly sometimes I don't know what's going on, you know, because I come at it with a lot of experience. I've been at addressable, data-driven television since 2001, right? I'm like programmatic, and the definitions that we use confuse me. Because I'm like, data, tech, I'm like, we use data.
Yeah.
We use tech. So to me, it's all about upping your game, kind of in data and tech. So I'm so tired of the word programmatic and the misuse of the definition and what it really means. Because really, I think, you know, I work at an agency who has an amazing optimizer and has amazing use of data. And, you know, we work in an industry that, you know, we probably could upgrade the tech side of things. Pipes aren't connected. Right? So to me,
and by the way, there's no incentive to connect those pipes in real terms. So
exactly.
Perpetual motion, right?
So a lot of the players that are out there that are confusing me, my clients, and just creating, I think, an unhealthy environment for innovation and what we really need to get done, you know, are confusing the situation by saying we're applying data like we never were before.
Right.
Like the problem is, and you know, I'm known for bashing Nielsen a lot. The problem is we were stuck on respondent level data for television. And our optimizer was built off respondent level data.
Right.
I have been begging every single player, operator, MVPD, since 2001 to free the data. Because if you want to have a true, you know, TV revolution, a way to monetize that inventory at a higher rate, it requires data. It requires data that the operators are sitting on. Those operators are now pulling back 100 million households of data. They're sitting on it.
So, okay, so before we get into that part of it, I mean, I want to go back to this first where we started the construct with Mike, right, and Modi, like push-pull. Because what I'm hearing from you is, you know, from the sell side, we hear there's a ton of innovation. Everybody is productizing data. You know, they're driving into the marketplace. They're leading and taking risks. But I'm listening to you and I'm like, you're pulling your hair out because you feel like you're just not getting the love and you've been knocking on, you know, the door now for 13 years, still haven't not made any progress.
Yes.
So what's the reality? Because you're writing the check, so I'm going to believe you at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I could tell you there is no agency, there is nobody on the buy side that has gotten, you know, access to non-aggregated. I'm not talking Rentrack. I'm not talking aggregation. It's very hard to do an optimization off of aggregated data. Right? So you need unaggregated data. There's only a few little sources that are out there: Fourth Wall, TiVo. Other than that, it has to come through the operators. Otherwise, you know, I've been evaluating all of our opportunities, whether it use ACR, any way I can get at this. We need data, and unaggregated data that's in a privacy-compliant, protected way. That's why SMG's partnership with Axiom is so important, which sometimes is not just about the data, it's about the safe haven.
Right.
It's about how do you connect data together in a way that cable operators who are subscription-based companies primarily are going to feel comfortable that they're not going to lose subscribers over privacy issues.
Okay, but I want to be really clear here because, and I think there's an interesting comment on privacy, because I think one of the comments I heard from Monty is in his EULA, there's an incentive, an economic incentive, right, to actually, if you want to opt into advertising or not right now, right? It's $20 a month you save if you opt in. And they're finding sort of blind opt-in. So I think that's interesting, right? But what I'm hearing when you talk about Axiom and double-blind anonymization and, you know, PII and all that, so like that's about subscriber level UID, right? PIA, or PAI rather. Like, do you really need that? I mean,
absolutely.
But are we not at a place where just if it gets a little bit better incrementally, that's progress? I mean, it feels like there's something in the middle. We can't just leapfrog to targeting at an individual level.
You know, it's funny because we had this debate back in 2006, so internally, because the market was coming with zone. Right? Let's put some data on top of some zones.
You're so greedy.
Yeah. And I was like, there's not enough lift. You got to get the waste out. And if we start saying embracing zone-driven data buys, I feel like we're going to cost the industry 10 years. So we decided to leapfrog the technology and go all the way to the household and separate the conversation between data and addressability. So I beat both drums, but I try not to beat them together. And they are coming together now. But that's because we pushed the market so hard to deploy addressable television. And why is that? Because that's the first place you can get access to the non-aggregated set-top box data.
Okay, so non-aggregated set-top box data, let's say that the floodgates open and we have almost 50% of the market owned by 2 players as a potential reality in the next 6 to 12 months. What do you want to pay for it? What's it worth to you?
Well, we're definitely paying a premium on top of addressable.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just give me a ballpark. Is it a 10% lift? Is it 20% lift? And if you did the math on where the supply and demand curves intersect, is the incremental reduction in volume that is your approachable audience, is it matched? Like, are you spending more year over year as a result?
Okay, so great question, very complex. I don't want to have an economics background to basically explain this, but I think there's 2 points there. In terms of how much of a premium we're paying, it really depends on the inventory source.
Okay.
So on DirecTV and Dish, they were kind of monetizing at a low rate because essentially before addressable was DR. So they're trading off a DR rate for a high addressable rate. So 5 times,
right?
But it was a low rate.
Right.
So we have other players that are struggling to come to market. Comcast, who is monetizing at a fairly high rate because they had a local premium on top of that. So now they say, well, I have to earn a premium on top of my local rate. And I'm like, well, how about we talk about your national rate? So it really depends. It's very hard to give an answer on what the premium is, but I could tell you.
So in aggregate, if you look at spend. If you look at,
well, right now the majority of the spend is sitting on DirecTV and Dish, and because they were at a low rate, I'll go with 5 times. It's a 5 times premium. But I think one of the things when you talk about, is the premium we're going to pay going to make up for the loss of the audience that we were buying? Because we used to buy the whole, and now we're just buying the homes with the dogs. Will it make up? I think the big piece that we are missing as an industry is there's a new source of revenue to go get. And it's the one that I beat on a lot. Direct mail is a $50 billion industry that's built off the exact principles of television. Yes, it's like we're kind of right at the place where I could open the catalog on TV. But the whole idea of shipping a piece of mail based off of a household address is exactly what addressable TV is. So I don't understand why I cannot send a Victoria's Secret 30-second spot and have a second screen enhancement to that where I can open up the catalog and buy. I think there's a $50 billion paper marketplace that this industry should embrace.
If you had to put, let's go to the buckets of MVPDs, right? Let's telco, satellite, et cetera. Just don't pick a player, pick a bucket. Who's going to fall first? Who's going to give you that data first? Or at least just free it up, right?
I already got it.
Okay, so you have you have some set-top box level data.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm assuming you're getting it from satellite. And do you think that is going to be an impetus for the marketplace, or do you think that you're able to create proof points around? I know 5x you're saying from a base of 2 is much different than from a local hyper-targeted base effective CPM. But do you think that the demonstrable business and investment in those partnerships that you're making is going to be enough of a carrot to get the other verticals to fall?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. I think. I have a lot of respect for Modi, and we talked a bit about their structural organization, and I see such value in that. We're structured a bit differently, and I think of myself much more as an entrepreneur, and I want to be the first one to do anything and structure the marketplace. So I think we're right at that place where some of those relationships that we've built over the years are starting to trust me and trust me with the data and trust our relationship with Axiom to keep the data safe. And then now the next step is for us to understand what value we create on an MTA or a multi-touch attribution model. So we're right at that place. I think TV's a bit nervous, like am I going to stack up, or is all this money going to start migrating to digital? So I think I'm a trusted person with them, and we're going to figure it out. So I think that's the big goal for 2015, is to figure out what does the data say, what is the value of the data, and how does it drive our business.
Okay, so last question. So all your wishes come true. You've got household level set-top box data disaggregated. Your wish list is checked off. Do you really care about DAI for linear television, dynamic ad insertion? Do you care about real-time so that you can actually target at the time of the ad call? Does that matter to you?
Yeah.
Is that important?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So when you say DAI, I think of a world of VOD. That's what, when you say it. So if that's what you mean by it. I think of any premium content that has the ability to have a addressable ad is my purview.
Right.
Whether that's over the top, through VOD, linear.
But from a time perspective, if you have to plan on a 2-week campaign cycle and plan in advance, right, because of the way that we traffic linear versus we can traffic it in real time for digital, does that real-time nature really give you that much of a performance lift?
Well, I also think of it as a continuum. Like right now, I'd be happy to plan a year ahead in that way, right? But as soon as I wring out the value of having better data to plan a year ahead, then I'm going to want to plan 6 months ahead, and then I'm going to want to plan 6 seconds ahead. To me, this is all an evolution. We're like kind of at the first part of retransformation of television, because it's already data and tech driven.
Right.
It just has to up its data game, and then the tech side's going to have to follow, because it's going to get more complicated.
It's a continuous improvement cycle.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracey.
Thank you.